Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube video. You have your host GBHL Damian, and this is my hobby vlog 50. Hi, how are ya? It's been a while. Yep, I am back at least for one video. I've done a bit of research before coming and film this, and my hobby vlog 49 was published on October the 3rd, 2017. So it's over 2 years ago since my last one of these, which is kind of mad and kind of crazy. I'm sorry, life happens. There's no specific reason for this. If you actually go and watch my last hobby vlog, number 49, right at the end, my daughter comes in and she kind of distracts me, and that's basically what happened in life. Just under 3 years ago, my daughter came in and she distracted me. And as a result, there's been a distinct impact on my kind of hobby time. And as a result of that, when you're thinking about what to do with your hobby time, the thing that falls off for me is the kind of YouTube stuff, I guess. So I still got a bit of time to paint, but yeah, this kind of content has dropped off, which is a shame. I really enjoyed it. I do like doing it, but I am doing my best to try and, as we start a new year, get back on it, so to speak. So this is the first step in that. Bizarrely, even more weirdly than that, is that I've actually tried to do this before. Back in February, I've recorded a video exactly like this. Hi, welcome to episode 50. I can't believe it's been so long. It's been over a year since my last one. And then that video never got finished. So I'm starting again, and hopefully you guys will see this one at least. It speaks volumes that last time I did it, I was in the grey shirt. So last year's Wanderers shirt, and now I'm in the blue one because it's a full year later. But there we go. So I am back, hopefully giving you some hobby content. I've gone back and looked at kind of what was in my last one, and it was basically summing up what I'd done in the 7 months between, which was painting a load of good and bad monsters. Moved into this new room, the hobby room, because Charlotte took over the old hobby room, and then was also showing you the drawer that was under the new desk, full of the kind of models and some of the projects which would be next. So I'm certainly not going to try and summarise all of those projects or show you all those projects, because that would be madness. A lot of them are kind of actually fully contained and complete, so I might end up doing some kind of self-contained showcases. But to give you a brief kind of overview of what I've been doing, the big project I worked on, the first big project, which is a year ago now, was my Army of the Dead. So for anyone who went to Throne of Skulls or followed the series on the Warhammer community articles, you might have seen this. I've got about 1,200 points now of Army of the Dead on a big display board that lights up, which was a super cool fun project to do. And I painted up versions of Legolas and Aragorn and nearly Gimli, more on him later, for that project, which is really, really good fun. And then that kind of got complete and finished, and I thought it was done. I've obviously got the new King of the Dead, so he's waiting to be done at some point with his herald, but other than that, that project's kind of fully complete. Then moving into the start of this year, I painted up the new plastic 3 hunters, which are gorgeous, to kind of go with that army. So I've done Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli, and actually the Halbarad as well, because they became part of my army for the GT, and then part of an army for doubles, where myself and Adam took the Grey companies. That was really cool. And then alongside that, for the GT, I painted up a whole Morannon army, kind of based off of this bad boy, which in crazy news hadn't come out when I recorded my last hobby vlog. So have a think about that, given that how much that seems like kind of old news now. But that's kind of utterly surreal. So yeah, I painted up a Mordor War Catapult and a Mordor Troll and a whole bunch of Morannons and some of the heroes for the GT list. So I've finished that as well. Then this summer I finished my Forge World Thorin's company. I've done some summer 2018. I've done about half of them, and I kind of finished those off ready for. We've done half of them for issue 7 of SBG magazine, and then we did the other half ready for issue 9 SBG magazine, the Mirkwood issue. Alongside that, I also painted up some new versions of Legolas, Tariel, got the new Defenders of Lake Town Tariel painted up, and a Palace Guard captain as well, so I kind of bolstered my Mirkwood army a bit, which was top fun. And then, after that, my primary aim for the last sort of 3 months or so has been my current Throne of Skulls project. which was, as a lot of you will know now, was my bag end display board. So I built a kind of big long display board with 3 different rooms, bag end full of furniture, and I finished off the Forge World Thorns Company. I did the last 3 dwarfs, which were Barlin, Bomber and Biffa, and then I also did a couple of Bilbos, including the new Forge World Bilbo, and a couple of Gandalfs as well, which were really good fun. So good to get those figures up there. And also by painting 2 more Gandalfs, Gandalf is now tied for me with Legolas as my most painted hero model. I've got 7 Gandalf the Greys and I've got 7 Legolases done. But, as you'll hopefully see in a bit, perhaps by the end of this very video, that might not be true anymore. So that's kind of where I've got to, essentially. And as I've said, I've literally just got back from Throne of Skulls. It was what day is it? It's Tuesday. It was on Sunday, so as some of you will know, it went very well for me. I somehow managed to win it again, so I defend my title, which was super cool. And I basically just came back buzzing and on cloud 9 and just really excited for the hobby and wanting to get stuck into the next thing. And it feels like a fresh start for me, like in terms of projects. So I thought, what better time to kind of get back on the hobby blogs. And there we are. So. The first thing I had to do when I got back was kind of settle on what I wanted to work on, and there are a few options available. One of the very exciting things is that very clever, this from GW, that Throne of Skulls finished on Sunday, and on the Monday the tickets for the Middle-earth GT went on sale. So while everyone's still buzzing about the last event, you get onto that one as well, which is super cool. So I grabbed my ticket for that, and as enthused as I am, I've already written my army lists. But chosen my armies, picked my theme, and even started planning a display board, which is going to be a lot simpler than my bag end display board. So that was super cool. And as a result of that, I've kind of gone digging around in my collection for a few key models that have been lying unused and unloved for years, and I've kind of pulled them out, and they're going to be getting the face in the brush over the next couple of months. But I don't think I'm going to start with them. What I had planned to start with was finishing off my Morannon force. So as I'm sure you'll know, in this box you get 36 Morannons. I painted up about 24, so there's a sprue left, and I've got a couple of the heroes like Gothmog's Enforcer, Goroth and Zagdush, and the rest of my Morannon command pack, which I think is a captain, a drummer and a shaman maybe. And that little project there, which isn't too much, feels like unfinished business to me, because I feel like I've kind of finished with the Morannons for now, but I need to get that done to be able to kind of then move on with something else. So I was going to do that, so I kind of got back and started clearing out all my hobby space. And as I was going through the drawer that I mentioned at the start, I realised that there was a load of stuff in there that just in the last 2 years hasn't moved and isn't likely to move at all. So I've got rid of a load of stuff from that, which I'll show you when I show you the drawer in a minute. And whilst I was doing that, I found 3 half-painted figures in there. There was a Legolas, a Gimli, and a Frodo, and they're all obviously Fellowship members. So I had 3 metal Fellowship sculpts, half-painted, really bizarrely from 3 different projects. So the metal Gimli was done for to be the Gimli for my 3 hunters when I took them to the GT. And I didn't quite get him done in time, and then when I got back from the GT, I had the plastic ones available, so I painted that one up. So there's a half-painted Gimli there that I really like. The Legolas was done for issue 9 of SBG. We've actually, if you go and have a look at it, there's a picture in there of Legolas and Gimli at Helm's Deep, kind of talking about their kill contest. And I was going to paint him up for that, and again, I just didn't have time with everything else I was painting for that issue. So the models that you see in the magazine are Tom's. So I've got a half-painted Defenders of Helm's Deep Legolas. And finally, the Frodo is the Frodo putting the ring on, and he was done for our SPG Advent Calendar, which some of you may well have been following along with on the GBHL. I put up a page every day, and the article I wrote for that or one of them I should say, is a kind of pastiche of Christmas Carol with Frodo. So I was painting them up for them, but again, just did not get them finished in time. So I've got these 3 half-painted models, and I just thought to myself, right, if I don't paint these now, I'm never going to paint them. And so they're all 3 of them are well on their way, some more than others. And I'm going to start with those. That's the first thing I'm now going to finish, get them done, and then I'll get 3 kind of easy wins out of doing that. And then I'll move on to something new, which I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to start on those models. I'm going to show you the state of them now, and then my hope is that by the time you actually watch this video, there will be another bit because they will be finished. We shall see. So here we are, and here is the drawer full of all the projects that were in my last hobby vlog. So I thought it'd be fun to open the drawer and see how in the 2 years since the last time I opened it in hobby vlog 49 things have changed. So here we go. So first off, I'm going to start with some positive stories. Thranduil was unassembled and unpainted and was on the list, and I have since painted him. So here he is, the gorgeous Thranduil on elk model. He was painted up to lead my Thranduil's Hall's armies. I was really pleased with how I did it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about any of these. It's just kind of documenting the models I've painted, really. But I was really pleased with how he came out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous model. I know, like Steve Crow thinks it's the best model in the entire Middle Earth range. I'm not sure if I go that far, but it is rather fabulous. And it's great to have an official version of him on the in the range finally. So yeah, absolutely stunning. So he got done. Progress. This Legolas was also half painted in that drawer in the last hobby vlog, and he got finished. So this is my fine cast Hobbit Legolas conversion. I reposed his arms so that he's not holding the Orcrist up beside his head, but instead kind of making the pose that he makes when he fights Bolg in Lake Town. That's what I was going for with this one, and I think it came out alright. It's not my favourite Legolas I've done. It was a bit of a kind of slightly rushed paint job. It's also not the nicest sculpt, I would humbly say, but he'll do the job. He's done and he's ticked off. Leggy, and completing the Thranduil's Hall's named characters, I finished this Tariel, which at the time I was really happy with. This is my Tariel conversion with bow. She was completely unpainted in the drawer last time. I really liked the idea of just swapping out that dagger to be a bow. I thought it was a much better sculpt than the plastic one. So I was really happy with this, and I thought that was my Tariel's completed for a while. So good to get her done. But, and I will jump slightly off piste here, as we all know, then this happened. The Defenders of Lake Town set was released completely out of the blue, of these old sculpts from the Hobbit era that never made it to market. And so I was super excited to get what I believe is the best Tariel sculpt we've ever had. Now you should hopefully notice as well that I've converted it. I wanted her to have a little more dynamism. So the bottom half of the legs are from a Mirkwood Ranger, and then I've just chopped her off at the waist and put her top on, so it hopefully looks like she's kind of rushing forward. So I was really happy with the way this turned out. That actually looks better without the hand, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it's focusing well there. I was really pleased with the conversion, pleased with how the model came out, and I really like the sculpt. I've actually got plans to do at least 2 different versions of this model. Everyone out there knows how much I like Tariel, but yeah, I've got hopes to do 2 more versions of this sculpt. So that'll put my Tariel count up to 5. But there she is, hands down my favourite Tariel, and this is the one I now use in my games. So that's what I've managed to progress with the Mirkwood section. There were a bunch of unpainted Mirkwood heroes. Some of these have moved in, some of them have moved out, but we have in here now, this is the Defenders of Lake Town Legolas. That's what's left of that kit in there, with some conversion bits. So that Legolas, that brand new Legolas, is hopefully coming soon-ish. I'll be doing him, and there's a few other Mirkwood heroes. I've got the Yoga Thranduil, as he's known, in here. I've got the other Palace Guard captain that I didn't paint, who's in here. And I've got 2 Mirkwood captains. They're undercoated. These are all, anytime they were undercoated, these 3, they were done for issue 9 of SBG. I was hoping to get them painted and just didn't get around to them. So that's why they've been kind of assembled since the last time you saw them. I do have high hopes that I might be able to finish that kind of section of my Mirkwood force. Maybe this year, maybe in this coming year. That's why they've stayed in the drawer. They are relatively high up the to-do list, and there's just a few hero models there, so it wouldn't take too much work. I've also got about another 8 Mirkwood Rangers that I'm going to try and get done. So again, I said this in Hobby Vlog 49, but there's a handful of models, about 15 models, that if I finish completely completes my Mirkwood army. So I'm hoping to get to that. I also had my Champions of Erebor in here, sprayed white in Hobby Vlog 49, and I'm pleased to say they've largely been finished. So here we go. These were painted up for issue 6 of SBG. so they've been done for quite some time now. But yeah, I really enjoyed painting these. I think I've done a few possibly by the time of the last vlog, but I loved painting these. I really enjoy painting Thorin's Company. They're beautiful models and so characterful, and yeah, they don't necessarily represent how they look in the films, because the gear they're wearing is specifically for the for when they charge, whether on their battlements rather than when they charge out. But they are beautiful, beautiful sculpts. So here's Oin. Really happy with him. Oin is one of my favourite models in the range. I think not this one particularly, but the Thorin's Company one, I think Oin's really well sculpted. Both the plastic Thorin's Company one and Forge World Thorin's Company one is really cool, and I think they really capture his face well. So I was pleased with him. I did Biffa, who became one of my favourite Champions Variable models. I was really pleased with how the armour on this one came out. I used the Weta books a lot for reference. I didn't think all that much of this model when I first saw it, or seeing pictures of it, but painting it, he's another one where I think Biffa's always just stunning. I think his beard is really well sculpted, and the axe just gives you a lot of character to play with, so that was cool. Ori, he's alright. Oh, is it stopping? There we go. Not at all my sort of favourite. He's a fairly bog standard model, but he'll do. I was pretty pleased with how he came out again. One of the ones I left to last, I think. Bofar is a gorgeous model. I think again Bofar's very well sculpted. Really nice pose. Very happy with how the colours on this came out. I used lots of unusual techniques for me in this, in that with a lot of the armour on the dwarfs, I'll just get old school washes out and start shading it with different kind of purpley washes and red washes to kind of make them stand out a bit and give them some slightly different tones. I was really pleased with how these guys turned out. I was very happy with Bofar. He's a cool model. Works really well. And finally, a lot of people's favourites, Dwalin. Dwalin was one I actually struggled with. It is a cool model. I went for the two-handed axe rather than the single axe phase. Tried to paint it so it looks like jade, which is what he has in the movies. I didn't really enjoy this one as much, to be honest. For some reason, it's often the way that the ones you're looking forward to don't come out the best, and vice versa. But I tried to give his armour, the scale armour, sort of kind of goldy green type effect, which I think came out well. I was quite pleased with him in the end. But he looks good. They look really good as a set. So those were the 5 that were in the drawer, alongside, time for a disappointment, Feely and Keely. Feely and Keely were white, and they are still white. These two didn't get painted, which you might find odd, given that it's a long time on, and I had to paint them. But the reason for that is I painted up versions that Dave Fredericks did for us. So this was Dave's conversion. Come on. Of Feely running forward. It's super cool. We asked him for issue 6 to do us versions of, he converted us a bunch of different champions. He did us the champions in Chariot, and we asked him to do Feely, Keely and Thorin on foot in the gear that they wear, because they look significantly different, Feely, Keely and Thorin, to how they look in the champions gear. And given they're such an important part of the battle, these were the 3 that he did for us, and so we loved them. So I painted up this Feely and Keely instead, and got them painted, and then abandoned the other poor Feely and Keely. So this is Dave's Keely, which I did, and if you actually look here, the big difference in Keely's gear is that he takes off his breastplate. Yeah, he's got this massive breastplate on, which he just takes off. He's still wearing the gold chainmail in this, but it's underneath. And that's true of a lot of them. They basically take off the top layer of armour at the battle. But yeah, this was Dave's Keely. There's a guide in issue 6 about how he converted these 3 dwarfs, and what models he used and what he sculpted and all that sort of stuff. But super cool. So that was the Feely and Keely, and as a bit of a bonus, I'll also show you his Thorin, which is again awesome. Bear in mind the time he was making this, we didn't have the Forge World Thorin, so this was the first Thorin to kind of appear in his gear as he does at the battle, rather than his big armour, so significantly different. So for issue 6 we were doing the charge from Erebor, and we didn't want to have Thorin in all his big gold armour and his cloak, because that's not what he wears. So Dave very kindly made us this awesome conversion. So there we go, my Champions of Erebor are complete, with the exceptions of Feely and Keely, but that's because I've got a different version painted. However, these are bugging me in the same way a few of those Mirkwood heroes are bugging me. So they're very much going to be on the soon list. I'm going to try and get them done at some point, I guess, over the next few months when I've got a little break in projects. I've still got these guys from issue Blog 49. These are 4 converted Gundabad Orcs. You would have seen them in the drawer last time. They haven't been painted, but they've stayed in the drawer. I'm still determined to get those guys done. They're not going to take long at all, but it'd just be good to get them done and kind of top my Gundabad army up a bit. So there's still hope for those. And then what you would notice is stuff that's gone. And what has gone basically is all the Iron Hill stuff, the half-painted Iron Hill stuff, and all the Lake Town stuff, a lot of that half-painted. And that stuff hadn't moved in the last 2 years. I hadn't been tempted to paint any of it. And given that this drawer is meant to be for upcoming projects, I decided they clearly weren't upcoming projects. They leave me as cold today as they did then. I'm not interested in painting them, so they've all gone into various cases, packed away. Who knows, maybe they'll be called out of retirement at some point, but certainly not for the near future. So they've been very much downgraded, for now at least. But they've largely been replaced with some more Army of Thor stuff. So I've got these guys, my Grim Hammers. Now I'm not going to show you every one of these, but I've got another box of Grim Hammers painted up. If you go back, and I think my hobby vlogs actually start with Thor. Where is he? Let's grab Thor. I think this might have been the first model I ever did in a hobby vlog. It remains possibly the best model I've ever painted. I think I absolutely adore it. This is for me one of the best sculpts in the range. It's absolutely stunning, and I've got a fairly decent Army of Thor force. But I always had another box of Grim Hammers ready to return to at some point. And obviously we know Grim Hammers are now the Grim Hammers we always wanted, and so it was actually last Christmas that I basically wanted to give my Army of Thor some love, and so I actually cleaned up that whole warband of Grim Hammers, ready to get them painted, including my captain. I can't actually remember which one that is, whether it's the Grim Hammer. I think this is the Warrior of Erebor captain rather than the Grim Hammer captain, but it's a super cool model. Really love it. So I got him cleaned up to basically finish my Army of Thor force, and it was for a tournament. I planned it for a tournament early in the year, and basically just I can't remember why, but I just didn't think I could get it painted in time. So they've sat there, but they are now back on the to-do list for this year. I can't say exactly when, but I know which project I'm aiming for them for, and they're going to be accompanied by Dale. So again, I assembled these over Christmas last year, so they've been kind of undercoated and ready for about a year. There's probably some posts on the GBHL group about me actually doing these. So the captain of Dale, Girion is ready to go. Girion's Wind Lance is ready to go. This is the only surviving Lake Town model in here because I'm going to give it to Girion rather than Bard. Super cool model. And then let's just show you a couple of these. The Dale Warriors. I've got a box of Dale Warriors. I have got another box of Dale Warriors, but I didn't manage to get them assembled last year. I just ran out of time over Christmas. She was eating mince pie and turkey and so forth. But I've got a warband of them done. They're gorgeous, gorgeous models. I absolutely love them. And Dale have very much been on my radar for a few years now. Like since they came out, I've wanted to do a Dale force. They're cool in the new rules, and I'm very excited to use them. So they're kind of going with these Grim Hammers. I feel like I'll finish the Grim Hammers first to finish my Army of Thor, and then I want to do a small little Dale allied contingent for that. So about 20 Dale Warriors, the captain and Girion, and get those guys done. So yeah, that's very excited. It's kind of one of those weird things where you kind of think, last December I thought they were my next project, and then a year later they're still not started, but they are going to be done this year. They're not going to be done next. As I said, I've dug a few models out of storage for the GT, which I'll show you in my next vlog. I've then got another large project that I think I'll be doing in the middle of the year, and I think these guys, I might get to them first, who knows, but I think these guys will be the second half of the year for me. But that is close enough that they get to stay in the drawer. So there we go. That's how things stand in the drawer. I feel very good about this. I feel very zen. I've cleared it out. The only projects in here are projects I'll likely be painting this year. So I'm quite excited to see, kind of by the end of this year, I might go and review this and see how many of these models have been painted, and to see kind of how well I've done, I suppose. So yeah, those are that's how that stands. But before I dive into any new projects, as I said, I'm going to finish off my 3 half-painted models, which you can see here, which I found in the drawer, and I'm going to go into detail about them now. So here we are. Here are my 3 heroes that I discussed with you. I'll give you a little show of their state of play at the moment, and then hopefully we'll see them when they're finished. So first up, Frodo. Here he is. This is the metal version of the Frodo putting the ring on. As you can see at the moment, he's always got like a superhero mask on, as I've painted his eyes and then painted him brown to do the shading back around the eyes and sort of tidy them up a bit. That'll hopefully look altogether better once that's been highlighted out. You can also see that he's basically, just having a look myself here, he's been based and shaded, but no highlights have been applied to any of his clothing. So that's what to do with that. If you're wondering why the base is actually seemingly finished, it's because I still had the hope of finishing him for the magazine the night before, so I did the base, which requires the glue to dry previously the night before, and then was hoping to just basically paint him the next day, but just never got around to it. So there's Frodo. Here's Legolas. You should notice the same sort of thing going on with his eyes, where his eyes have been painted in, and then the kind of dark shadows been put back around them. So this is actually also giving a potentially interesting insight into how I tend to paint models, where I'll paint the eyes first and then tidy the eyes up by painting dark areas around them, and then tidy that up with the flesh colours. This also looks that beyond that he hasn't had any highlights done, so entirely based and shaded, but no further highlights, and so long way to go on that. But I do really like painting Legolas models. I like the colour palette, and he's my favourite character, so I can't wait. That's also an absolutely great model. So I'm really excited to kind of get stuck into that one. And finally, Gimli. And Gimli, I believe, is actually the most finished. Because I think, if memory serves, his face should be done, if you look in there. I think his face and his beard doesn't look complete. It's really hard to remember. You know, I was doing this basically about a year ago. I was remembering what I did, but I think I could do definitely more highlights on the beard there. But it looks like maybe the skin's done to me, and like the cloaks started to have some highlights applied to it, I think. So as you can see, that's the state they're in at the moment, as I found them. Basically, eyes finished, but not an awful lot more. So I'll be starting them now, and hopefully in a mere matter of seconds, I'll be coming back, and they'll all be finished. We shall see. And here we go. I am delighted to say that we are finished. So all 3 models have been finished. Let's have a quick look around at the 3 heroes. It's a few days later. I've basically worked on one each evening, but here is Frodo. Hopefully he's coming out alright. No more bags around his eyes. Beautiful model. Tried to make the ring pop as he's putting it on. It's a lovely little detail. Nothing too much to talk about here. Normal flesh tones. I use Acadian flesh, I think I use. Yeah, Acadian flesh tone, and then I just mix in some pallid witch flesh to do the highlights basically. I'll talk about my elf cloaks in a minute, because I've done 3 of those, and this kind of, I'm not sure how well it's reading, but it's kind of bluey, greeny grey. The trousers are basically scorched brown, Rhinox hide, sorry, then worked up with some lighter shades, and the waistcoat was Doomball brown. But I'm really quite pleased with him. I think he came out well. It needs to be looking alright there on the screen. Yeah, on the screen now that looks pretty accurate to the colours, I'd say. So there he is, there's my little Frodo. Only the 2nd Frodo I've ever painted, I realised as I was doing this, and definitely my favourite Frodo model, so that's pretty cool to get him done. There he is. Next up, let's do Gimmers. Hey, Gimli, and here he is. Again, his face was finished. I think it had a few highlights, but not a lot else. So he's now done. Again, my elf cloak. The beard on this was Deathclaw brown with highlights of Bestigor flesh. The red areas were a Doomball brown base coat, washed with Agrax, and then built up with Doomball mixed in with Wazdaka red, and maybe some Deathclaw brown highlights in there. Everything else is fairly self-explanatory. Pretty pleased with him. Again, 3rd Gimli I've ever done, so it's one of my favourite Gimli sculpts, so pleased to have him in the collection. And finally, my favourite Middle-earth character, my latest version of Leggy. I think I mentioned this, I don't know, these things, I always forget what I've said on these blogs, but he was my most painted model, with 7 sculpts, and when I worked on my Throne of Skulls Bag End project, I did 2 Gandalfs, which tied them for first place, so I had to do another Legolas. It's a beautiful, beautiful model. Really, really pleased with him. I think he again had the horrible sort of like black eye mask last time we saw him. It's really weird on the camera. He seems to have some kind of horrific scarring on the side of his head there, which you really can't see on the model. I've never noticed that before. Yeah, you see that? It looks like he's got a bit of goth mod going on above his right eye, but you really can't see that on the model. Always interesting when you get close up on these. But I was really pleased. The cloak I use is like Lauren Florist and Strachan Green, and then it's kind of mixed in with some Rakarth flesh to kind of do the highlights on that. I really, really love painting Legolas models. I know it's tied into the fact that he's my favourite character, but I like painting robes far more than I like painting skin and armour, and he's basically all cloth, so and very little metallic. So I just enjoy painting him, and this was no exception. So it's always nice when a model that you really like comes out well. So I was really pleased with him. And finally, the elf cloaks, which I've done on all 3 of those. I've done loads of these now. Well, not really loads, but quite a few. I've done my 3 plastic free hunters and Halbarad. And the way I do them, I don't think I've mentioned this on the video before, but just in case, I don't have any more to say than the fact it's Stegodon Scale Green. Come on, you. Oh, there we go. Nurgling Green, Ulthuan Grey. Not liking focusing on these. There we go. Ulthuan Grey and Eshin Grey. Those are the 4 colours, and I basically just mix them all in fairly arbitrarily. There we go. Fairly arbitrarily, and just do loads and loads and loads of highlights. I do each one individually. And I basically keep the last one that I was really happy with beside the desk as I'm doing them, so we can so I can kind of do it by eye and just judge it that way, really. So yeah, just those 4 colours, and I just mix up lighter shades, highlight them, darker shades, and shade it until at some point I'm just happy with them. There's also an incredibly annoying thing. You might have seen photos of Legolas and Gimli that I put up on the Great British Hobbit League already, and they were sitting here just like this, finished on my desk, and a box from up here fell, knocked them off and chipped them both, which made me absolutely furious. So since you've seen them, Gimli's cloak got chipped, and as a result I've basically had to completely repaint the entire cloak to match the colours for the reasons I just mentioned. I'm pretty pleased with it now, but I don't think it looks nearly as good, and I think it's bluer than all the other ones. So no one will probably care ever except me, but you know what it's like. And then Legolas's arm got chipped down here as well, down where his armour plates were. And again, if we go and have a look at that really closely, I don't think you can particularly see now. So that kind of little bit of green, the bottom 3 plates were chipped away. So I've had to repaint them, which is quite annoying when you think you're finished. But I think they're all right now. They seem pretty good. And like I say, I'm sure no one will care. But equally, it's quite annoying when it happens. So there we go. Got them done. Really, really happy with them. I might chuck some pictures up now so you can see them a bit closer under what's hopefully some decent light. But a very, very successful end to my my first blog in a while. Cheers. So there we go. 3 completed models to add to my collection. 3 cool new metal heroes that maybe sit in the cabinet, or maybe they'll be used for various scenarios and stuff, but they are done, and I'm ready to move on to the next thing. The next thing I'm going to show you will be the models that I've kind of pulled out of retirement, ready for the GT. But I'm going to save that as a bit of a treat for the next hobby vlog, which will hopefully be coming along very soon. So by all means, if there's still anyone out there watching these videos, feel free to speculate in the comments what are those models, or maybe even just a little simpler, what are the forces. And I'll give you one clue, and that is that they are thematically opposed forces. So by all means, have a punt. If anyone gets the exact models, you can win the chance to buy yourself a Freddo. There are 2 models we're after. I'll give you a super extra hint. One of them is a foot and mounted. So I have a foot and mounted character and something else. But yeah, that's what we'll be working on next, and will hopefully be in the next hobby vlog, which should be along before too long, I would hope. So yes, there we go. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look of what I've been up to, and a brief recap of what I've been up to for the last 2 years. I am still here. I'm still on the sofa. We still have a cup of tea. TTG. Look how much things have changed. Now these are the big boys, right? Steve's over there doing his fantastic content over there, and Lockie at Zorpa have very much taken up the mantle. I think it's fair to say the GBHL is never going to get back to kind of where it was, doing like daily content and that kind of thing. The people just aren't in the right place. But my hope is that I am still here on the sofa with a cup of tea, and I think for a variety of ways we will be able to do some semi-regular content for you going forward, and hopefully that'll give you some good stuff to listen to while you paint. So there we go. I hope to be back very soon. Until then, don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. That's still true. Support your Hobbit host by clicking on the links below. I think the magazine's still down there, so that's still true. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Don't follow us on Twitter. Jamie used to do the Twitter thing. I can't imagine that's happening. Like us on Facebook. That's still true. Support your Hobbit hobby. Definitely do that. And happy strategy battle gaming.